Greetings and peace and salam alaikum. Ramadan Mubarak to all you beautiful people out here. I know y'all observing the last day of Ramadan and y'all getting ready for y'all Eid Afir holiday. So I hope everybody had a good Ramadan so far. I had a good one, so yeah. Um it was cool, whatever. But anyways, I want to get on the subject tonight about the ancient city of Petra. So the ancient city of Petra is located in where it is now Jordan, right? So it was considered as the lost city. Um, but what's so interesting about it, somebody have told me about this information, shared this information with me on social media. So I want to shout out to brother Melvin Winfield Bay. Shout out to brother Melvin Winfield Bay for giving me this information on Facebook. So the ancient city of Petra, right? Like I said, it was located in Jordan, but the origin of it has a lot to do with Islam. So, well, during the pre-Islamic era, okay, before the religion of Islam came into place, that was said to be the original foundation of what we know today as Islam. All right. So what I'm gonna do is, because I'm gonna break it down in two parts. So this is gonna be the first part. So the first part, I am going to focus on the ancient city of Petra, and I'm going into the history about it. Then the second part, I'm going to be talking or discussing about the pre-Islamic history. Okay. So in the pre-Islam, we're going to talk about the gods, the deity of the Arab gods. And also we're going to be talking about the gospel of Barnabas. And see, I know about the gospel of Barnabas, and I'll pull that information up. But yeah, I want to focus on the ancient city of Petra and the Nabateens. So the Nabateens were the people that lived in this area, but they did not call it Petra. They call it Rakmu. That was the name of the original name was Rakmu. So the Nabateens were the people that was in the city, and they built this city up. Okay, they built it, and it was supposed to be like the lavish version of the Middle East. You know what I'm saying? It's supposed to be like Dubai. You know how Dubai is very lavish, a lavish city in the Middle East? That was Petra. It was like that Dubai in the city of Jordan. Okay. So I'm going to go into that, but thank you guys who have been subscribed to my channel, share my channel, like my channel, all that great stuff. Continue to do so. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? All right, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start off with the information from Wiki. So what is Petra? So Petra, right, originally known as to its inhabitants as Rakmu or Rakimo, is a historic and archaeological city in southern Jordan. It is adjacent to the mountain of Jabal al-Matba in a basin surrounded by mountains, forming the eastern flank of the Araba Valley, running from the Dead Sea to the Gulf of Aqaba. The area around Petra has been inhabited from as early as 7000 BC, and the Nabateans might have settled in what would become the capital city of their kingdom as early as the 4th century BC. And archaeological work has only discovered evidence of the Nabatean presence dating back to the 2nd century BC, by which time Petra had become their capital. So the Nabateans were nomadic Arabs who invested in Petra's proximity to incense trade routes by establishing it as a major regional trading hub. Okay, so the trading business gained the Nabateans considerable revenue, and Petra became the focus of their wealth. The Nabateans were accustomed to living in the Barren deserts, unlike their enemies. and were able to repel attacks by taking advantage of the area's mountainous terrain. They were particularly skillful in harvesting rainwater, agriculture, and stone carving. Petra flourished in the first century AD when its famous Al-Khazin structure, believed to be the mausoleum of the Nabatean king Aretas IV, was constructed, and its population peaked at an estimate 20,000 inhabitants. So it says, go down, it says, although the Nabatean kingdom became a client state of the Roman Empire in the first century BC, it was only 106 AD that it lost its independence. Petra fell to the Romans, who annexed Nabatea and renamed it as Arabia Petria. So Petria's importance declined as sea trade routes emerged, and after an earthquake in 363 destroyed many structures. The Byzantine era, several Christian churches were built this, but the city continued to decline, and by the early Islamic era, it was abandoned itself for a handful of nomads. It remained unknown until it was rediscovered in 1812 by Johann Litwit Buckhart. So access to the city is through a 1.2 kilometer long gorge called the Sig, which leads directly to the Kazani, famous for its rock out architecture and water conduit system. Petra is also called the Rose Red City because of the color of the stone from which it is carved. It has been a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1985. UNESCO has described Petra as one of the most precious cultural properties of man's cultural heritage. In 2007, Al-Khazini was voted one of the new 7 wonders of the world. Petra is a symbol of Jordan, as well as Jordan's most visited tourist attraction. Tourist numbers peaked at 1.1 million tourists in 2019, marking the first time that the figure rose above the 1 million mark. Tourism in the city was crippled by the COVID-19 pandemic, but soon after started to pick up again, reaching 260,000 visitors in 2021. So go down here where it says the importance in antiquity, right? So let's see if we can find the city of Petra. All right, so here's the map of Jordan. Or this is the map of Petra. Okay. And here are all the other places surrounding. Okay, so you got Kazanit, Al-Furan, Al-Sig, Jabal Al-Kuta. Then you got Jabal Al-Madba. Then you got the Roman soldier, the Garden Temple, Lion Monument, Snake Monument, etc. All right. So Pliny the Elder and other writers identify Petra as the capital of the Nabatean kingdom and the center of their caravan trade, enclosed by towering rocks and watered by a perennial stream. Petra not only possessed the advantages of a fortress, but controlled the main commercial routes which passed through it to Gaza in the west, to Perosa and to Damascus in the north, to Aqaba and Luz come to the Red Sea and across the desert to the Persian Gulf. All right, so and here it is what it says description. Water control. Excavation have demonstrated that it was the ability of the Nabateans to control the water supply that led to the rise of the desert city, creating an artificial oasis. The area is visited by flash floods, but archaeological evidence showed that the Nabateans controlled these floods by the use of dams, cisterns, and water conduits. These innovations stored water for prolonged periods of drought and enabled the city to prosper from itself. All right, so That's a little bit of the history about Petra. Okay. So as I said, mentioned earlier, that Petra is supposed to be considered as the main foundation of what we know today as Islam, but it started as the pre-Islamic period. Okay, that was the origin of Islam before it became part of Mecca. Now, as you can see, the people of the Nabateans people, they were construction workers. They built this city up, and they did not have water, natural water supply, so they had to build a dam just so the water can run through, and they could be able to have the resources they need. All right, so the city itself was rich. It did a lot of trade, especially a lot of incense and all other trades. So it has a rich history. Um, so I'm gonna skip some of this and let's see what else we can find on here. All right. Oops. All right, there we go. Okay, so going down to where it says Hellenistic architecture. One of the main things that Petra is known for is Hellenistic architecture. The facade of the tombs in Petra displayed this type of architecture, and it also grants reflection on the different types of culture that the Nabateans traded with. Most of these contain small barrels and niches that are carved into the stones. Perhaps a more prominent resemblance to the Hellenistic style comes with its treasury, which is 24 meters wide and 37 meters tall, and give reference to the architecture of Alexandria. The facade of the treasury features a broken pediment with a central tholos inside, and two obelisks appear to form into the rock at the top. Near the bottom of the treasury, there are twin Greek gods, Castor and Pollux, who protected travelers on their journeys. Near the top of the treasury, two victories are seen standing on each side of a female figure on the tholos. This female figure is believed to be the Isis Tache, Isis being the Egyptian goddess, and Tache being the Greek goddess of good fortune. Wow. Another prime example of the Hellenistic architecture feature in Petra is in its monastery, stands at 45 meters tall and 50 meters wide. This is Petra's largest monument and is another building carved into the rocks of Petra. So the facade of this again features a broken pediment similar to the treasury, as well as another central tholos. The monastery display more a Nabatean touch while at the same time incorporating elements from Greek architecture. Its only source of light is its entrance standing at 8 meters high. There is a large space outside the monastery, which is purposefully flattened for worship purpose. Formerly in the Byzantine period, this was a place for Christian worship, but it is now a holy site for pilgrims to visit. All right. So over time, Petra was invaded by the Romans, right? And so when the Romans came in, then the Greeks started coming in. And that's when the Romans built their empire, and they built the foundation of Christianity there. And the Greeks came in mixing in with the gods. They took the concept of the Egyptian goddess, right? And they mixed it in with the Greek goddess. So they did get, so the question has been centered of, have the Greeks get a lot of its influences from Egypt? Yes, they have received a lot of their influences. All right, they have taken on the Egyptian ideology and incorporate into their ideology. All right, so if y'all read about the Hermeticism, right, the Kabbalion, you will see the Egyptian ideology and the Greek ideology combined together. Okay, let's see. Let's go to. All right, so let's go to the part where it says, at the end of the narrow gorge, the Sig stands Petra's most elaborated ruin, popularly known as Al Khazinik, hewn into the sandstone cliff while remaining in a remarkably preserved condition. The face of the structure is marked by hundreds of bullet holes made by the local Bedouin tribes that hoped to dislodge riches that were once ruined to be hidden within it. A little further from the treasury at the foot of the mountain called Najil is a massive theater positioned as to bring the greatest number of tombs within view. At the point where the valley opens out into plain, the site of the city is revealed with striking effect. The theater was cut into hillside and into several of the tombs during its construction. Rectangular gaps in the ceiling are still visible. Almost enclosing it on three sides are rose-colored mountain walls, divided into groups by deep fissures and lined with knobs cut from the rock in the form of towers. The theater was said to hold around 8,500 people. The performances that audience were able to attend here were poetry readings and dramas. Gladiator fights were also said to be held here and attracted the most audience, although no gladiator was able to gain any momentum or fame due to the heavy mortality rate that came with it. That the theater was one of many structures in Petra that took significant damage due to the 363 Galilee earthquake. All right. Now, and it says the Petra Pool and Garden Complex is a series of structures within the city center. Originally, it said to be a market area. Excavation at the site have allowed scholars to identify it as an elaborate Nabataean garden, which included a large swimming pool, an island pavilion, and an integrated hydraulic system. All right, so now let's go down to where it says, let me see, before I go any further. Okay. All right, so let's go down to the part that says the high place of sacrifice. So the high place of sacrifice is located at the top of the Jebel Matba mountain. The beginning of the hike is near Petra's famous theater. From there, the site of the high place of sacrifice is around an 800 step hike. One commonly believed sacrifice that took place here is the libation. Another common form of sacrifice that took place here was animal sacrifice. This is due to the belief that the tomb of the prophet Aaron is located in Petra, which is a sacred site for Muslims. In honor of this, a goat was sacrificed annually. This is also a biblical passage taking place here, in which Prophet Abraham sacrificed his son in honor of God, but he was said to be saved by an angel. Other rituals also took place here, including the smoking of frankincense. This is an interesting subject, and I'm very intrigued so far. It says the royal tombs of Petra embody the unique artistry of the Nabateens, while also giving display to the Hellenistic architecture. But the facades of these tombs have worn due to natural decay. One of these tombs, the palace tomb, is speculated to be the tomb for the kings of Petra. The Corinthian Tomb, which is right next to the palace tomb, has the same Hellenistic architecture feature on the treasury. The two other royal tombs are the Silk Tomb and the Urn Tomb. The Silk Tomb does not stand out as much as the Urn Tomb. The Urn Tomb features a large yard in its front and was turned into a church after the expansion of Christianity in 446 AD. All right. So as you can see, it goes down, talk about the Neolithic period. So by 17,000 BCE, some of the earliest record farmers had settled in Badia, a pre-pottery Neolithic settlement just north of Petra. And then goes into the Bronze Age. Petra is listed in Egyptian campaign account and the Amarna letters as Pel, Sela, or Seir. All right, so it goes into the Iron Age, Edom. So the Iron Age lasted between 1200 and 600 BC. In that time, the Petra area was occupied by the Edomites. This came when the Edomites rebelled after the death of King Solomon in 928 BC, when Israel split into two kingdoms, for Israel to be in the north and Judah in the south. The Edomites were known as a descendant of Esau, and this was a reference in the Old Testament of the Bible. The configuration of mountains in Petra allowed for a reservoir of water for the Edomites. This made Petra a stopping ground for the merchants, making it an outstanding area for trade. Things that were traded here included wines, olive oil, and wood. Yeah. All right. So it says initially the Edomites were accompanied by nomads who eventually left, but the Edomites stayed and made their marks on Petra before the emergence of the Nabateans. They were then engaged in the battle with King Amaziah of Judah and chased back into their own lands. It said that 10,000 men were thrown off of the mountain el Bayara. This story has been debated by scholars as it is in so-called biblical times. Edomite site excavated at the top of the el Bayara mountain at Petra was established no earlier than the 7th century BCE Iron Tomb. All right, now go down to the emergence of Petra. So the Nabateans were one among several nomadic Bedouin tribes that roamed the Arabian desert and moved with their herds to wherever they could find pasture and water. Although the Nabateans were initially embedded in Aramic culture, theories about them having Aramean roots are rejected by many modern scholars. Instead, archaeological, religious, and linguistic evidence confirm that they are a northern Arabian tribe. Current evidence suggests that the Nabatean name for Petra was Rakimo, variously spelled and inscribed as Rakmu or Rag. All right. So it also goes down to Petra as Rakim. So historian Josephus writes that the region was inhabited by the Midianites or Midianites during the time of Moses, and that they were ruled by 5 kings, one of whom was Rakim. Josephus mentions that the city called Petra by the Greeks ranks highest in the land of the Arabs and was still called Rakim by all the Arabs of his time after its royal founder. So the name Rakim was inscribed in the rock wall of the Wadi Musa opposite the entrance to the sea. However, Jordan built a bridge over the Wadi, and this inscription was buried beneath tons of concrete. Okay. So it goes on to say Petra as Selah. So an old theory held that Petra might be identified with a place called Selah in the Hebrew Bible. Encyclopedia Britannica states that the Semitic name of the city, if not Selah, would remain unknown. It nevertheless cautioned that Selah simply means rock in Hebrew and thence might not be identified with a city where it occurs in the biblical text. So the passage in Deuteronomy Seculis, which describes the expedition which Antigonus sent against the Nabateans in 312 BCE. It was understood by some researchers and not so by others to throw some light upon the history of Petra, but the Petra referred to as a natural fortress and place of refuge cannot be a proper name. The description implies that there was no town existing there at the time. All right, so as you can see, I'm gonna go ahead and skip down. let's skip down. Let's look at the religion for a moment. So, but I just want to give you guys the idea of what we're going to go into. So religion, the Nabatean religion, right? So it says the Nabateans worship Arab gods and goddesses during the pre-Islamic era, as well as a few of their deified kings. One, Obadis the first, was deified after his death. Jushara was the primary male god, accompanied by his three female deity, Al-Uzza, Alat, and Manat. Okay. Many statues carved in the rock depicted these gods and goddesses. New evidence indicates that the broader Edomite and Nabatean theology had strong links to the Earth-Sun relationship, often manifest in the orientation of prominent Petra structures to equinox and solstice, sunrises, and sunset. All right. And then just to go into what they're talking about here, a stele dedicated to Kos Allah, and Kos is Allah or Kos the God by Cosmic Malek King is found at Petra. Kos is identifiable with Kosh, the god of the older Edomites. The stele is horned, and the seal from the Edomites Tawilan near Petra identified with Kosh display a star and crescent, both consistent with a moon deity. It is conceivable that the latter could have resulted from the trade with Haran. There is continuing debate about the nature of Koth, who has been identified both with a hunting bow and a rainbow, although the crescent above the stele is also a bow. Okay. All right, so and then it goes on and say the Nabateans inscription in Sinai and other places displays widespread reference to the name, including Allah, El, and Alat, with regional reference to Al Uzza, Baal, and Manatu. Alat is also found in Sinai in South Arabian language. Allah occurs particularly as Garm Allahi, God decided, Greek Garamolos, and Ash Ala'i, God covenants. All right, we find both Shamallah, Allah is peace, and Sham Alat, the peace of the goddess. We also find Amat Allahi, she's servant of God, and Allah Ilahi, the successor of Allah. All right, so again, I won't go too much into that, but just kind of just give the idea. I'm just going to do that on the second part. So as you can see, it talks about the Nabatean religion. Okay. All right. And that's going to be on the part 2. So we're going to go into the religion about the Nabatean on the part 2 of this video. Okay. All right, but if you want to look more into this, just to become more familiarized with this, just come over here to Wikipedia, look under the god and goddesses, and look under Nabatean religion. So real quick, let's just read this part. It says the Nabatean religion has encompassed both Christendom and an earlier form of Arab polytheism practiced in Nabatea, an ancient Arab nation which was well settled by the 3rd century BCE and lasted until the Roman Nation in 106 CE. The Nabateans were polytheistic and worship a wide variety of local gods as well as Baal, Shamin, Isis, and Greco-Roman gods such as Tache and the Nemesis. They worship their gods at temples, high places, and Bethels. They were mostly aniconic and preferred to decorate their sacred places with dramatic designs. Much knowledge of the Nabateans' grave goods has been lost due to the extensive looting throughout history. They made sacrifices to their gods, performed other rituals, and believed in an afterlife. All right. All right, then. So I just want to stop there. So now let's go into the history and the architecture of Petra. All right. So this comes from the Johnson County Community College, Volume 3, Issue 2, Spring 2012, by N. Reynolds. Okay. As you can see, the abstract, it says Petra was a city of wealth, prosperity, and numerous ingenuity that allowed the Nabatean people to settle and even thrive in one of the harshest environments on earth. The city became the center of trade between the Middle East and the Roman Empire, which brought both wealth and power to its people. It also provided the resources for the construction of staggering tombs, monuments, and cities that turned the desert into an oasis. All right. In addition, the confluence of cultures create the unique Nabatean art style, which incorporates some of the greatest elements of architecture from all the ancient world and has left an unmistakable mark on the harsh desert landscape. Faculty mentor Dr. Allison Smith. Okay. See if I can. All right. All right. So it goes down here and it says what you always want to cross-reference and make sure you get the proper information. So this is what I do. I always want to make sure I cross-reference the sources, okay? So right here it says the ancient city of Petra was at the center of great Nabatean trade empire, which was the hub for not only the exchange of goods, but the idea and culture as well. This confluence of culture could lead to the unique style of art and architecture seen in Petra. So it says the Nabateans were a prosperous and powerful civilization of traders that rose to the power between the 4th century BC and the 2nd century AD. At the height of their power, the Nabatean controlled vast expanses of the desert located in present-day Jordan. This region was highly strategic and was very in terms of natural resources and had a few zones that were very fertile and cultivated, and most importantly was located in a position that controlled the caravan routes that crossed the Arabian Peninsula from the ports of both the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea. And it goes on to say, the control of these caravan routes made the previously nomadic Nabateans quite wealthy and powerful, allowing larger and more permanent settlements to be built and a more complex government to be established. Caravans that traveled across the Nabatean Empire were well known for selling incense, spice, oils, perfume, and other luxury goods. The wide variety of goods that the Nabateans offered meant that many different empires had an interest in trading with them. This trade included not only goods but also ideas and arts trends which would be reflected in the Nabatean art form. Due to their economic and cultural prosperity, many people began settling in fertile areas along the all-important trade routes spanning the empire. One of these settlements, the city of Petra, was selected to be the new Nabatean capital and would grow to become a city of legendary status. Again, and that was like what the earliest form of Dubai. Okay, so Petra will be what Dubai today is to Saudi Arabia. So Petra will be to Jordan what Dubai is today is to Saudi Arabia. All right. And it says, while it will become a great city, the first settlement in Petra was simple structure of rough stones and clay, which may have built so travelers could store items until they returned to the city. This style of living continued for a long period until people began to permanently settle the areas in and around Petra. Even after settlement began, their domestic architecture remained simple and stone-built single-story houses covered the undulating slopes of Petra. Although their dwellings remained simple, the inhabitants began incorporating the ideas and styles of their trading partners into their tombs and monumental architecture. The architectural style of the Nabateans was a blend of Assyrian, Egyptian, Hellenistic, and Roman influences that were incorporated into the unique architecture of Petra. The first monumental construction were the numerous tombs surrounding the outer limits of the city, much like the cities of the Greek and Roman empires. One of the first large tombs to be constructed was the pyramid tomb, named for the four pyramids of memorial steel which stand across the top of its facade. The design of the tomb is unique in Petra or any other Nabatean site. Such a tomb is a perfect example of the combination of architectural characteristics that creates the unique Nabatean art form. All right. So the height of this tomb building came with the construction of the Khazarit or treasury where the Nabatean king Aratus III was buried. This enormous tomb, rising more than 100 feet from the canyon floor, incorporates Corinthian and Nabatean columns as well as numerous temple friezes which are carved from solid rock. In addition, several figures adorn the monument, including both Nabatean and Greek deities as well as characters from Greek mythology. Construction of this tomb shows that not only were the Nabateans willing to combine art styles, they were also willing to combine facets of different religions. Another enormous tomb was the Deir Monastery, produced for the Nabatean king Barnabas III, who died around 85 BC, but continued to have a cult following long after, which is why many excavators believe his tomb was completed around the mid-1st century AD. This monument construction dwarfs all of its visitors with several enormous niches to hold statues that now stand empty. Okay, its simple direct frieze is comprised of alternating circular metopes and diaglyphs, and all of the engaged columns on the face of the monuments are in the Nabatean style. What makes this tomb unique, in addition to its size, is that it lacks the integrated carvings and symbolism of the treasury, indicating that most Nabatean architectural forms have developed from the elaborate to the simple, from the figurative to the aniconic, from the cosmic to the dear, a reversal of what is generally assumed. A much later tomb worth noting is that Citis Florentis, the Roman governor of Arabia, who died around AD 129 and was buried in Petra at his own request. While his tomb was much smaller than those of the Nabatean king, it is one of the most elaborately ornamented in Petra. This ornamentation included the carving of several mythological Roman symbols, such as Medusa head below an arch with pediment with a large eagle above, together with several Nabatean columns and a Latin inscription dedicating the tomb to Titus Annius Cetis Florentinus. Mm. All right, so I just won't go any further into this article, but as you can see, you can just see that it's basically a rich history, and this pretty much backs up the article from Wikipedia. All right, so you can find this. You can just look it up for yourself. It's the history of architecture of Petra by Ian Reynolds. The history of architecture of Petra by Ian Reynolds. All right, so I'm gonna repeat that for you guys, and it's at Johnson County College Community College, which is this is the Honors Journal, right? And it was printed on spring 2012, volume 3, issue number 2, all of that. Okay, so let's see what else can we get into, right? Let's get into the next article. So this one is the Mediterranean archaeology and archaeometry, right? Archaeology and Archaeometry, Volume 14, Number 1, page 103 to 118, right? And it was copyrighted in 2014, printed in Greece, okay? Recent discoveries in the city center of Petra, Jordan, a preliminary excavation report by Adnan Shilab. All right, Department of Archaeology, Al Hussein bin Talal University, Wadidi Musa / Jordan. All right, so it was accepted on February 28th of 2013, and it was received. No, it was received on February 12th of 2013. It was accepted on February 28th of 2013. Okay, so this is when they turned in their articles, etc. Okay, so go down to the abstract. It says, despite previous and continued excavation at Petra, many questions regarding the city center are still ambiguous for the archaeologists. The ruins of the side of the valley raise many questions about the nature, the function, and the dating of these structures. For these reasons, an excavation has been conducted at this site. The excavation uncovered an important public building, which contains a public bath used in the Nabatean, Roman, and Byzantine periods, and absent, and in front of it, a platform and a structure with marble floor. The connection among these structures is not completely clear. Further investigation and analysis is required. Now, here's the introduction. The site chosen for excavation is located on the northern bank of Wadi Musa, immediately to the west of the Nabataean, and on the lower slope of the hill that accommodates the Petra Church and facing the market and connotated street area. All right. And it says the excavator, through field observation, noticed pottery shreds of the Nabatean, Roman, and Byzantine periods distributed on the surface. Wall line were associated with the pottery. Okay. He concluded that this would be an important area to investigate. The work started on June 28, 2007 and continued until August 10th of 2007. During this period, a surface survey was carried out. Photographs were taken, survey features were documented, and a contour map was made. Okay, so these are the excavation they did. All right, so for those of you that don't know what excavation is, that's when they do the diggings and the finding undergrounds and stuff. So that's what consists of when you're in the field of archaeology. You have to do excavation, meaning that you have to dig up stuff off the ground. Okay, dig into the grounds, look for whatever clues that you're looking for. All right. Two areas within the site were chosen for digging 5 squares were planned in order to understand the nature of the site. The relation between the architectural features that can be seen on the surface of or those which still underground, and to understand stratigraphy at the site and to uncover the archaeological remains. Excavation results. This area is located directly near the embankment wall, which runs along the north side of the Wadi Musa to the west of the Byzantine building or Byzantine tower. Whereas elsewhere in Petra, the flood waters of the Wadi do an enormous amount of damage. Despite the destruction near the Wadi, traces of walls on the surface extend both to the north and the east. This makes it easy to define the squares in this area. Okay, 01, 002, 003, and 004. All right. So I'm going to all All right, so I'm going to read the squares, okay? So square 001, a wall built of large dressed stone was found in the eastern side of the square. Excavation reached 2 meters deep along this wall. This north-south wall intersects at a right angle with another wall uncovered the southern side of the square. Running east-west, it seems that the two walls were constructed in 2 different periods since the lower courses of each wall have different types of stones and the construction techniques in these courses varies from that in the upper courses. All right. Now it says between the southern and eastern walls to the northwest, a small oval-shaped structure was discovered. Its walls are built of mud and undressed small stones. Considerable parts of the walls are the floor are covered with plaster. Therefore, it could have been used in a later period to collect rainwater as a clean to make plaster. All right, so, and it goes on to square 002. In this square, a wall running north-south and parallel to the wall in square 1 was uncovered. The wall is built of dressed stones linked by mortar and small stones. The lower courses of this wall were constructed earlier than the upper courses, which appear to belong to a later period. The walls in square 1 and 2 appear to be parallel, linked, and could have been constructed in one period. They might represent large structure or structural unit that could not be identified this season. Pottery complete ceramic objects and a few coins was found in square 2. Now square 3. This square was chosen a little to the north of square 1 and 2, where some architectural elements could be seen on the surface. These elements can also be linked to the architectural features in the previous square. In this square, excavation led to the discovery of a wall that runs east-west. 9 courses of this wall were uncovered without reaching bedrock. The 2 upper courses are different from the lower courses in terms of their nature and the dressing method. However, they all seem to have been built in one period. The western part of the wall was constructed of dressed stones vertically laid, while in the eastern part there is a projection in the wall that looks like an apse. All right, so in front of the proposed apse and on the level of the 6th course, the excavation team discovered a square platform. It was partly excavated and will be excavated further in the second season. The exposed stones of the stone platform have some decoration. Its lower course has a square hole closed from the inside, while the upper surface is covered with mortar. The presence of the platform in front of the suggest apse may indicate a functional link between the 2 features. And square 4 was located where some architectural features were noticed on the surface of east. On the surface of east square 1 and 2 and southeast of square 3. In this square, a wide rocky floor by 9 square meters in its side was discovered. So this floor intersects a wall running east-west in the north side of the square. The wall consists of 6 courses built of dressed limestone ashlar. The bedrock could not be reached along this wall due to the presence of a significant amount of mud brick. All right. So pipes were, this wall also vertically meets another wall in the west side of the square. The latter wall was constructed of dressed stones in its southern end and was covered with mud bricks in its northern end in order to hold ceramic pipes. The pipes were laid vertically and horizontally and can be easily seen. At the level of the 3rd course of this wall, small arches join it to wall in the west bulk. Okay. All right, so That's all I'm going to read from here. As you can see, there was some more finding. They found it pottery. They found it what is called Eugentaria, okay, which was one of the ceramic products that was used by the Nabatean people. Yeah. So they found marbles. They found coins. So this all the things that the archaeologists found when they was doing the excavation. All right, in the Petra area. So that's this information you guys can look up for yourself. Is recent discovery in city center of Petra, Jordan, a preliminary excavation report. All right, again by Adnan Shilab. Adnan Shilab. Right. And so the next article is the water supplies and distribution system of the Nabatean city of Petra from 300 BC to AD 300 by Charles R. Ortloff, if I'm saying it right, Ortloff. Yeah, Charles Ortloff. So it goes on to talk about water supply and distribution system of the Nabatean city of Petra is a southwestern Jordan has been explored and mapped. Analysis of the system indicates exploitation of all possible water resources using management techniques that balance reservoir storage capacity with continuous flow of pipeline systems to maintain a constant water supplies throughout the year. Nabatean Petra was founded around 300 BC. Urban development progressed with later Roman administration of the city starting at AD 106. Byzantine occupation continued to the 7th century AD. Trade networks that extended throughout much of the ancient Near East and Mediterranean world intersects at Petra and brought on not only strategic and economic prominence, but also impetus to develop water resources fully to sustain demands of increasing population and city elaboration. So city development was influenced by artistic, cultural, and technological borrows from Seleucid, Syro-Phoenician, Greek, and Roman civilization. The Petra water distribution system included hydraulic technologies derived from these contacts, as well as original technical innovations that help to maintain the high living standards of city dwellers throughout the centuries. Analysis of the Nabatean water network indicates design criteria that promotes stable flows and use sequential particle settling basin to purify portable water supplies. They also promote open channels flows within piping at critical flow rates that avoid leakage associated with pressurized systems and have the design function to match the spring supply rate to the maximum carrying capacity of a pipeline. This demonstration of engineering capacity indicates a high degree of cognitive skills in solving complex hydraulic problems to ensure a stable water supplies and may be posed as a key reason behind the many centuries of flourishing city life. All right. All right, so let's go down to here where it says position between Egyptian, Babylonian, and Assyrian empires. Many influences dominated the formative Nabatean cultural landscape over time. The sacred spring created by Moses, as described in Exodus accounts, has been equated with the Ain Musa spring outside Petra, although controversy exists as to its location outside Petra. Location and historical accuracy, and sites in Sinai must also be considered. Biblical and Quranic references to Petra area document use of water channels and springs by the inhabitants to maintain agriculture and settlements. All right, so Assyrian texts ascribe to the Sargonic era mention 10 cities in this era. Hey Tetsy, how you doing? Peace. How you doing, brother? Thank you for coming through. I hope everything going well with you. All right. It says the Assyrians text ascribed to the Saganic area, the Saganic era mentioned 10 cities in this area. The earliest proto-Nabatean period began when the Edomite agriculturists assimilate nomadic tribal groups familiar with caravan-based trade activities. Although the origins of the Nabateens remain controversial, right? Their final consolidation in areas around Petra in the early 3rd century BC is evidence from the archaeological record. Following conquest by Alexander and the later division of his empire, conflicts arose between the Nabateans and Tonganists of Macedonia and Ptolemaic forces for control of the lucrative trade routes passing through Petra. With the decline of the Seleucid and Egyptian influences, and a Nabatean state emerged in 64 BC. Roman intervention began when Sicarius, an envoy of Pompey, sided with Nabatea's enemy to defeat Aretia's the third in battle. Rome declared the province of Syria under its control, and Nabatean controlled areas were subject to Rome invasion under Sicarius and Gambanius. Despite the tumultuous political climate, the Nabateans' political wisdom prevailed to maintain the establishment of an important trading empire with Petra as the main administrative, commercial, and religious center. All right, so it says a series of Nabatean kings, right, presided over the expansion of commerce and urbanization at Petra, driving the city's increasing water needs. So Nabateans' acquiescence in the inevitability of Roman dominance and commercial advantages of trade across territories consolidate under Roman rule outweigh the advantages of autonomy. The city experienced Roman control under Tiberius, Caluga, Claudius, and Vespasian and Hadrian, with administrative consolidation and territorial status. Yes, territorial status change characterizing Roman dominance. Allied to Rome, Nabateans under King Meletius were participants in suppressing the Jewish revolt in AD 67. And it says Rabel II then ushered in independence as Roman ally that permitted Petra to continue its trade-based prosperity. All right. So Petra was formally accessed into the Roman Empire in AD 106 under Trajan, or was it Trajan or Trajan? Is it Trajan or Trajan? Throughout this period, caravan trade from Arabia, Africa, and the east with Petra as a key intersection node sustained the city's wealth and supported the construction of commercial, ceremonial, and administrative manufacturing and water supply structures commensurate with the city's wealth and status as an emporium city. Under Roman governance of Syria, the Nabateans enjoyed relative independence, perhaps on account of tax and tribute revenue to Rome. So wealth generated by trade and taxes on caravan to Cairo, Gaza, and Damascus, and Palmyra, Jeru, Medan, and Madian Salil, and eastern locales came finally under Roman dominance. The gradual shift to sea trade led to the decline of Petra's status as an overland trade center, with Palmyra now replacing Petra for overland caravan traffic from Silk Road destination. Following Arab occupation after the collapse of the Byzantine Empire, the city faded from view until European rediscovery in the 19th century. All right. So further historical accounts detail the many cultural and developmental influences the city experienced over many centuries of existence. All right. Okay, so let's see. So right here, I'm going to read a little bit about the description of Petra water supply and distribution system. So give me one moment. All right then. Man. Whew. All right, so right here where it says description of the Petra water supplies and distribution system. So figure 1 shows detail of the supply and distribution system leading water to the urban core of Petra. Numbered location, right, in round brackets throughout the text, denoting major buildings, temple, and site features as listed in the key to figure 1 as shown are major dams, okay, subterraneans, water distribution tanks, and springs. The superimposed grid system serves to define an area coordinate system composed of 1 kilometer grid boxes to permit approximate location of various features mentioned in this discussion. All right. So here's figure 1. So figure 1 shows how the water supplies will distribute. Okay. All right. So that's figure 1. Let me see, because I want to. All right, so I just want to read this little first paragraph right here. The urban core of Petra lies in a valley surrounded by high mountainous terrain. Seasonal rainfall runoff passes into the valley through many canyons, stream beds, and drains out primarily through the Wadi Sayak. Early phases of urban Petra rely upon open channel water delivery from from the En Musa spring outside the city along a direct path through Saki or Sea. The water channel traverses the entire length of the city before exiting into Wadi Sayag. Placement of this system required diversion of the intermediate Wadi Musa River that previously passed through the sea by means of dam and tunnel construction. Okay. All right, later phases of urbanization reveal an integrated approach to water system construction and management demonstrated by new features such as surface cisterns to capture rainfall runoff, deep underground cisterns, multiple pipeline system, and storage reservoirs, flood water control through diversion dams and tunnels, supply system redundancy to ensure water delivery from multiple spring and reservoir sources and pipelines, sand particle filtration and removal basin. All right, so skip down. It says the technical means to capture and store a fraction of rainfall run off through the dams and cisterns to build flood control system to build pipelines and channels to deliver water from distant spring and to manage these interdependent assets to provide a continuous year-round water supply to the city is crucial to understanding Nabatean contribution to hydraulic science. While water storage was a partial key to the city's survival, a number of spring internal and external to the city. All right. Provided water that was channeled and or piped to the city. This constituted the main water supplies of the urban center. The complexity and ingenuity of the water supply system in Petra was commented upon the antiquity as a remarkable achievement given the apparent lack of the traditional water resources in the area. Strabo's complimentary and the inside part of the city having springs in abundance, both for domestic purposes and for watering gardens, reaffirms that springs were a vital part of the city water resources. Okay, so that's I'm going to read from that article. If you guys want to read about the water supply and distribution system of the Nabatean city of Petra by Charles Ortoloff. If you want to read this, here's the article. Let me see. Go down to the bottom. It's coming from Cambridge. It says talk your language. Wow, African archaeology. I need to look into this book. They got plenty of others. The myth of Arcadic states, ancient Pohika and the Mississippians, the ancient Jamon of Japan, and ancient Maya. But yeah, I would definitely need to look at African archaeology by David W. Phillipson. All right, so I'm gonna put that down in my bucket list. But yeah, okay. So if you guys want to look more into this, just look up the water supply and go on the researchgate.net. Researchgate.net, the water supply and distribution system of the Nabatean city of Petra. All right, then, and there's a book. It's called The Nabatean Builders of Petra by Dan Gibson. Let's see. Okay, nope. I was trying to look for the copyright. Maybe I have to scroll down. All right, so the copyright is 2013. All right, so copyright is 2013. The Nabatean Builders of Petra, Dan Gibson. Okay. So if you want to read any further, look any more into that. Okay. But that's all the information that I have, and that's all that's all I got for this topic. So this is just part one. So I will be coming back doing part two. So that information is dealing with the ancient city of Petra in itself. Then part two is going to deal with pre-Islamic history, the Nabatean language, the Nabateans' religion, and also I'm going to be talking about the Gospel of Barnabas. So the Gospel of Barnabas is where the story about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came from. Okay, it was one of the lost book of the Bibles. So the Gospel of Barnabas is another name for Joseph. Okay, the word gospel in Greek means good news. That's what it means. It means good news. All right, you guys. So anyway, this is your girl Tiffany. I'm finna go ahead and log off. So I hope you all have a good one and y'all be safe. Until next time, peace and power elevation. And I'll come back later with part two. All right. Thank you for tuning in and watching. And thank you for supporting my channel. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell and like it. All right. And check out all the other contents on here. Okay. Peace.